Hello and welcome to Newsroom. I'm Sharmeen Ali. Now, recently, the United States government has praised Prime Minister Imran Khan for his efforts in trying to defuse the situation in the Middle East, particularly between the United States and Iran. And the US statement said that Prime Minister Imran Khan was one of the world leaders to engage on an off-ramp diplomacy to diffuse recent tensions between the US and Iran. Naturally, at the UN General Assembly, Prime Minister Imran Khan had said that he's available to mediate between the two countries due to the fact that we cannot afford a war with Iran and the United States, as it's going to impact everybody regionally, and particularly due to the soaring oil prices that will result for Pakistan's economy. That would be disastrous. So he has been involved in this diplomacy and has been acknowledged by the United States government for doing that. Also, Pakistan has clearly said that it won't be a party in the tensions right now between the United States and Iran, and Pakistan's Foreign Office has also clearly said that it will not allow its soil to be used against any country, but it is always going to be there to mediate wherever necessary, and has been doing so in the past, as we just mentioned, between the United States and Iran, and also between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Prime Minister Imran Khan has made several trips to the Middle East in order to bring that settlement around, and hopefully we can still continue, Pakistan will still continue to try and bring about peace between these countries. Also, in Pakistan's fight against financial terrorism, and in order to bring about the necessary changes that we need to come up to the standards of the FATF and not to be blacklisted, there's another crucial review coming up in February. Pakistan has passed a very important bill in the National Assembly which allows for an exchange of information and criminals with other countries. So this is a significant development, and we'll be talking about that in today's program. Now, we'll begin our first topic, where the United States has praised Prime Minister Imran Khan for his efforts to diffuse tensions between the United States and Iran. Naturally, this is something that for Pakistan could have huge implications if there is a war in the region between the United States and Iran. We've mentioned earlier already, oil prices have gone up, and since the killing of General Qasem Soleimani by the United States, and we've seen that Irani sentiments are very, very high right now. Things are boiling over with the sentiments in that country. We've seen a very, very large funeral with hundreds and thousands of people for General Soleimani, which is still continuing for a number of days because the procession is going through several cities. And after that, it is yet to be seen what, if any, actions Iran will take against the United States for this killing of the very senior leader, and also for the other leader that was killed, Abu Mehdi, from one of the leaders of the Iraqi paramilitary forces who would coordinate with Iran in Iraq. So let's talk about this topic right now with our guests in our studio. We have with us Sayyida Dhana Kashmi, who's an international affairs expert. Thank you so much, Sayyida Dhana Kashmi, for joining us on our program. Now, a very precarious situation in the Middle East, and we're seeing that finally, Prime Minister Imran Khan's efforts are being acknowledged officially as one of the countries that have tried to bring about some level of mediation between the United States and Iran. Your feedback on this, please.
This is not the first time, Sharmeen, that we are doing it. We have always been involved in diffusing the tensions between different regional parties, be it Iran or Saudi Arabia, and now the US. We have always been playing the role of mediator in every conflict that we think is going to disrupt the regional peace and stability. As we all know, that Pakistan shares 992 kilometers, that is 620 miles of border with Iran. And we're also trying to, stabilize our relationship with Tehran, having our strong friendship with Saudi Arabia. And on the other hand, we are also, representing Iran's counter interest with the US. So getting a praise that Pakistan is helping out in this crucial movement, I think it's really commendable. We have always been doing that, especially what Shah Mahmood, Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi has said, that we are not going to be a part of the US-Iran conflict. Rather, we'll try to diffuse the tensions that has escalated a lot after the death of the General Soleimani, who was not only a general of Iran's army, rather he was regarded as a spiritual leader
Yeah,
right?
and
Because
he's one of the most loved leaders in Iran.
exactly,
Let's have a
and
look at what the situation
yeah.
is right now, and then we'll have our discussion. Let's have a look.
The tensions in the Gulf have reached tipping point after United States assassinated General Qasem Soleimani of Iran's formidable Quds force in a strike near Baghdad airport on 3rd January. Iran has vowed to avenge the killing of one of its most powerful generals, while US has warned Iran that any retaliation would invite more attacks from America. A commander of Iranian Revolutionary Guard threatened to target 35 U.S. targets around the world, promoting President Trump to warn that 52 Iranian sites have been marked for attacks from U.S. Even Iranian cultural sites. The U.S. president's tweet has received criticism from within the United States, where the American president is seen as hurling threats to commit war crimes. Iran has also pulled out of the 25 nuclear deal, while Iraqi parliament has called for American and foreign troops to leave Iraq. With shadows of war looming in the Gulf, regional and international powers have expedited their efforts to diffuse tensions between the United States and Iran. All the countries of the region and beyond have called for de-escalation of tensions, but so far no coordinated effort is launched to pull the two belligerent countries from the brink of a possible war. Iran announced it would abandon limitations on enriching uranium, taking a further step back from commitments to a 2015 nuclear deal with six major powers, but said it would continue to cooperate with the UN nuclear watchdog. United Nations Secretary General has expressed his deep concern over the deteriorating situation of the Middle East and called on parties concerned to exercise maximum restraint to stop escalation of global tensions. After the assassination of Iranian military commander, Pakistan urged both the United States and Iran to avoid further escalation. Pakistan reaffirmed its resolve not to become a part of any conflict in the region and renewed its offer for mediating in the Middle East crisis.
Right, so very serious situation indeed. So, Saida Dhanak, now your feedback on this now. Pakistan has also been mediating between Iran and Saudi Arabia to bring down tensions between them. There was a recent escalation over the summer last year in 2019 where Saudi oil facilities were hit, and the Saudis blamed Iran for it. Iran denied this. However, there was an escalation after that which didn't lead to anything. But there's been tensions between Iran and Saudi Arabia as well, which Pakistan has been trying to mediate. Prime Minister Imran Khan has made a lot of efforts towards that.
Yeah. Even now we are seeing that Saudi Arabia is also, trying to bridge this conflict that is between US and Iran. Because we all know that if this escalation will exceed or accelerate more, this tension, then obviously the oil prices will rise somehow. Strait of Hormuz will be blocked, and more tensions can result into this. So I think Pakistan now should play a very neutral role, because we should keep this thing in mind that we are allies to US, not only on the economic terms, but also as on strategic part as well. We cannot ignore the fact that Iran is our neighbor, and we have cultural and religious affiliations with them. So we should keep a balanced approach as far as the Iran, US and Saudi Arabia is concerned. What we are doing right now is perfectly phenomenal, because we are not only playing a role of a good friend towards Saudi Arabia, but we are also playing a role of a good neighbor for Iran, as well as we are trying to prove ourselves as the supportive ally for the US as well. So Pakistan
also very cautiously didn't attend the Kuala Lumpur summit for the sake of Saudi Arabia and UAE to be satisfied. So diplomacy here is to be handled very carefully.
True. Especially in this regard, whatever Pakistan is doing on the foreign policy front and the steps they are taking, they are in a very positive direction. We are not ignoring the fact that where we stand. We know our role, and I think we should not ignore our national interests as well of the country. We should keep those interests in mind, and then we should take our steps. And this is what the Prime Minister and our Foreign Minister are doing. So I think as far as our role is concerned, whether it's Afghanistan, whether it's in Iran or Saudi Arabia or the US or different parts of the region, whatever we are doing right now as a country to facilitate and to suppress these regional tensions, I think we are on the right track.
Right, and in October, Prime Minister Imran Khan visited Tehran as well and met with the leaders over there, and that was also
in the in regard of the tensions that were going on between Iran and the Saudi Arabia, and I think up to some extent they have diffused up to some extent because the tensions were put to rest for the time being.
Right, and also now you have the peace process in Afghanistan going on. How can that potentially be derailed? Because that affects Pakistan a lot as well, and Pakistan has been making efforts towards that also. Now Iran is a neighboring country to Afghanistan also, and Iran also has a lot of influence on many ethnic groups in Afghanistan, so Shia groups in Afghanistan. So what could happen over there if this conflict spreads to the region and have an effect in Afghanistan?
Before it spreads to the region, we need to take countermeasures for that, because as far as Afghanistan's issue is concerned, let's put it aside for the timing, because right now the kind of war that is seen to be generating is from Iran's side, the waving of the red flag to take the revenge on journalist Qasem Soleimani's funeral. That was really a serious threat. It's not only for, and the condemnation from the international forums as well. We are seeing it as a fear of darkness for the world, not only the region, Sharmeen. Here I like to quote that for the world, it's a kind of fear for the darkness. Henry Kissinger in his one of his books said that we told the U.S. military that we need to counter 7 countries in the Middle East because of their strategic importance, especially in terms of oil.
Right.
We have tracked 6 countries, and only one is left, that is Iran. So I think something is starting, and we as a nation, as a country, we should play our role in that.
Okay, we have online with us Ambassador Ali Sarwar Naqvi. Thank you for joining us on our program.
I am happy to be here.
Sir, now you have served in the Middle East as well as an ambassador and in the United States. So now that you've seen the statements going back and forth after the assassination of General Soleimani by the United States, you've seen a very strong statement from the Iranis that they're going to exact severe revenge for this. And then President Trump has said that he has in sight 52 targets, including Irani cultural sites. And then there was a response to that as well, very, very strong statements coming from the Irani side. So, sir, where do you see this heading? What could be the next move of the Iranis after this? Because right now they're still busy with the funeral processions. After that, what happens?
Well, you see, it is a very complicated situation in the sense that it's not just the U.S. and Iran, it also involves other countries in the Middle East as well. So, all considered, I mean, if the Iranians to revenge Qasem Soleimani's death as the commander of their most important force, if the Iranians, instead of taking on the U.S. directly, hit out at some tankers or refineries belonging to Saudi Arabia or UAE, then that also can be a response that one could see happening. I think the scheme that, according to the Americans, that Qasem Soleimani had developed or produced was to target some American diplomats from the Middle Eastern countries, is something that I hope it doesn't happen, but the Iranians might just do that, and they can show to their nation that they have taken adequate revenge, because the Iranian statements are basically in response to what the domestic pressure is. There is a wave of anger and total sort of hostility to the U.S., against the U.S., in the Iranian public at the moment. So, but that will lead to escalation by the United States. So we are looking at an escalatory, situation fraught with all kinds of risks and dangers.
Right.
The position of other countries like the EU, China, Russia, etc., are also to be taken into account. I think they would prefer the matter to go to the Security Council and deal with it there. So all these things are likely, and some of them are not so good, and Pakistan has to watch out how it works out.
Right. So the European leaders have also said to the US and Iran, as you were just saying, that it's crucial now to de-escalate. And Pakistan has been urging the same. We also, when General Bajwa spoke to Secretary Pompeo, he said that it's important to focus on the Afghanistan peace process as well. What role can Pakistan play at the moment to further help to diffuse these tensions, as we are neighbors with Iran and this will greatly impact Pakistan?
Well, I think what the Foreign Office has said and what Mr. Shah Mahmood Qureshi has said, that Pakistan would not like the conflict to escalate, would want peace to be established, and would not like its territory to be used by any side. So that is Pakistan's principled position, which it has enunciated. But I think Pakistan, in bringing about peace, may well try, but the problems are far too big, and Pakistan need not make any quick claims of being able to do this or that, because unfortunately that has been the tendency of our government for some months now of saying things that they will do and they have not been able to do.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us online, Ambassador Ali Sarwar Naqvi. So, Sayyida Dhanak, now we were just discussing about what more Pakistan can do and what the other countries are saying as well to diffuse these tensions. However, we saw before this attack happened that several months back there were protests in Iran going on against the leadership and against the oil prices going up, and the economic situation there had become pretty grave. The people were suffering there due to the sanctions. And some of the more liberals were protesting. So now we're seeing a sort of a unity that was unprecedented there before.
I think this incident proved to be a major point of integration for the Iranian people. Somehow there was, a disunity in not only as far as the leadership is concerned, but among the people as well. Where are we going? Where are we heading towards? But after this incident, because he was not only as I said before, he was not only a general of the Iranian army, he was like a spiritual leader who has remained on this post for more than 22 years.
Right.
And it's a huge,
he was a war hero in the
He was a war hero. He was like, you can say he was worshipped like anything.
Right, and he's probably the second most powerful leader there after Khomeini.
Yeah.
Right.
So, this thing proved to be something positive for Iran as well, because somehow the disunity that we were seeing in the Iran in the face of the protests that has been going on in Iran for several months, now they are united. They are there to take revenge,
right.
Which they have been planning for so long. They just needed a yardstick or a reason to retaliate towards the U.S. policies towards Iran for so long.
Right.
Backing from the nuclear deal that was into 2015 nuclear deal. That is another ominous development
that's a huge setback, because this was against President Trump's advisors that he should step back from the nuclear deal in 2018 when he did that.
Yes.
And after that, tensions have just escalated.
Exactly.
It's all in the sort of idea that President Trump has to put pressure on another country in order to have a better deal. But in this case, it seems to be
in some other direction.
Out of control, right?
Yeah.
And also, the journalists in Tehran who have been covering Iran for decades now, and they're saying they've never seen such large crowds that have come out for General Soleimani. So, in your
it's
opinion,
like all the Iran has gathered for their funeral. This shows that Iran has quoted, never try to threaten Iran. Like the tweets that we are seeing, 59 list of targets, and then they are reminding each other, remember that 295 something number.
Yeah,
yes,
from the
so
plane
these
that
kind
was
of
hit,
reaction.
right.
But here I like to quote that Iran should now, not be much aggressive, keeping in view their strategic strength, keeping in view their military strength. Iran should not, because they have lost General Qasem Soleimani, who was all in all. No lieutenant or no other general or any staff of their army is competent enough to guide them in this grave scenario. So I think right now, after all these mornings, they should gather, they should make a plan instead of being aggressive to promote the regional peace and to save themselves from this retaliation. They should devise a plan, because we cannot count, not only we, Iran cannot counter the US strength only by statements and things.
Right. Thank you so much, Saida Dana Kashmi, for joining us on our program today. After the break, we will continue with our program. Please stay with us. Welcome back to our program. We now have in our studios Dr. Noor Fatma. We're going to be discussing with her the newest bill that Pakistan has passed concerning the Financial Action Task Force for fighting terror financing, actually. And this is where the bill concerns exchanging information and criminals with other countries. It's been a controversial bill in the Assembly. Some opposition members have said that this bill infringes on the sovereign rights of our citizens, etc. We'll discuss that as well. But generally, this bill was needed, according to the government, in order to ensure that Pakistan does not end up on the FATF blacklist, which could be very devastating for the Pakistani economy. So let's discuss with Dr. Noor Fatma, who's a political economist. She's here with us in our studio. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us.
You're welcome.
So this bill that's been passed, can you just tell me how important you feel this is for combating terror financing?
Actually, if you look at the FATF whole proceedings, which has been taken place already, Pakistan was placed in grey list in 2018 June, and then Pakistan was asked to actually do certain actions and ensure certain measures to curb the terrorist financing. And there were total 27 points which were given to Pakistan. So Pakistan has submitted its first report in January 2019, stating that Pakistan has been trying to effectively curb the terrorist activities and particularly the financing. So that has not been taken as enough by FATF.
And then we were given a grace period.
Yes.
Right.
So now it was actually critical on Pakistan's account to fulfill all these points and make certain laws and regulations, and of course bring some more institutions to monitor all those activities which Pakistan has already started. So keeping that in view, there were certain rules, regulations and laws were required. So certain bills were required. So yesterday that is a part of the episode of that bills were the part of whole that's 27 points agenda. So why it was important? It was important because there was a need of certain information by Pakistani authorities from other countries as well as from our own citizens, which are making their transactions to the foreign banks. So that was most important thing, which need a legal authority to the officials, particularly to the Interior Ministry.
Okay, so who was handling all of this, exchanging information
there were certain
and
things,
criminals previously?
Yes,
there were different
FIA
agencies.
was responsible for it. Federal Investigating Agency, and then some of the part, the coordinating part was, a monitoring part was on the part of the NACTA also,
Okay.
and there was of course the FBR and Interior Ministry. But now they have made the wholly responsible the Interior Ministry, that nobody will have any communication with any foreign country or institution without the information of Interior Ministry.
Okay,
so that is going to be the, yes,
is the focal point in
a
this
radical
whole bit.
decision.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So now it all is going to be sort of moved forward through the Interior Ministry.
Yes.
And everything has to be done by them.
So the government and particularly the Secretary Interior Ministry should be aware of all those measures which is taken, and he will be actually the coordinating point now. And of course the FBR, of course the FIA, and certain other agencies, the State Bank of Pakistan for that matter. And State Bank is there to actually make aware to all of the stakeholders to be aware of certain mitigating effects of certain transactions.
Right. Okay. Also, this is now the new bill that's been passed. This is going to be by mutual agreement between two countries to exchange
yes.
information as well as criminals.
Criminals.
Right. So what are the implications of this now?
See, earlier this could be made only to with those countries who have such agreements. And if you don't have agreement, actually you cannot share, exchange your criminals, and you cannot even give them help or give them the information. Now, because this concerns is coming from FATF, just because this can be refused to those criminals who can use those kind of channels where the government of Pakistan cannot get hold of them.
Where an existing agreement does not exist.
Yes.
Okay,
so now this will make them give them an access to
so
those
then
countries.
this bill will have effect in the countries that are not part of those agreements. And also clause 5 says that the authority, which is the Interior Ministry, may initiate transmitting of information relating to criminal matters confidentially without prior request by that country, meaning that you can, without the country requesting as well.
Pakistani authority feels that, they can just start that process.
Okay. Well, now there's been some, some of the opposition leaders had their concerns about this. We'll get into that a little bit. That PPP leader Saeed Naveed Qamar said it's against the fundamental rights of the citizens of Pakistan. Your opinion on this? Is it infringing on the rights of citizens if we exchange, say, criminal and people with other countries?
Because it says that you have to have access to any individual's transaction internationally. Probably that is some of the part, and maybe some other part which we will actually know later also, that concerns the opposition. And I think that is based mostly on the perception. When it will be discussed broadly within the House, that will go away. And I think the government is also taking care of that. That the sovereignty, of course, is the duty of the state to maintain. So I don't think so that is going to affect the fundamental right. But of course, till the time the situation is not very openly discussed and openly, and perception, I just said that perception should not be the sovereignty or crippling anything or the freedom or anything. We are not compromising anything.
Right. So now, as a result of this, Pakistan will be in a position to hand over individuals to other countries, and then that also means that people who have, say, evaded taxes or are taking shelter in other countries, we can ask for them to be sent back to Pakistan.
Actually, this has to be elaborated. If you evading taxes, and if you are evading tax, it is coming from which source? Is it coming from the terrorist financing, or it is going to a terrorist financing?
But FATF also handles money laundering.
Yes, money laundering is a crime, but now this crime will be more taken into the terrorist financing thing.
Okay.
The framework of the crime is now different. We have already domestic laws. We have the laws which is dealing with already with the laundering and with such kind of a transaction. But of course, now this is focus only main thing, that is a terrorist financing.
Okay.
So that has to be taken into the consideration.
Right. Okay. Now, as far as that's concerned, for terror financing, especially where FATF, that umbrella comes, we have until February, until we were given the 4-month grace period in order to rectify what they felt, the FATF felt was lacking. And we also know that India has been making a lot of efforts to get Pakistan blacklisted by the FATF. So as far as this measure is concerned, how important do you feel this was in order to ensure that, number one, we don't get on the blacklist, and number two, we have a chance of getting off the grey list as well?
This was something very much prerequisite for us to get out of the grey list. Number one, that is the requirement. So we needed to pass this bill. And secondly, now onward, Pakistan is able to make its case against this covert attacks by India also, not only on the account of terrorism, but on account of this Pakistan, pushing Pakistan into grey list. When we have done our homework, we are more confident to talk about these things. Secondly, FATF will consider certain other things. For instance, relation with Afghanistan and the instability in Afghanistan. For instance, India's covert attack and India's, of course, the standpoint of Pakistan and why India is pushing Pakistan towards the grey list. So these are the things which we can make. We can take plea of these things only when we have done which was primarily required by Pakistan to be done to get out of the grey list of FATF.
Right, okay. So now we have, so the review is coming in February. A lot of steps have been taken by Pakistan in order to get off the grey list of the FATF. This is a bill that's been passed, which is very important, exchange of information and individuals. And we've also taken other steps, such as integrating different agencies and then investigating, like for example, financial institutions have had to go through a huge overhaul. And that's also been pretty tough for Pakistan to absorb and for consumers to absorb all the different changes and the paperwork and documentation that's been involved. Ma'am, your feedback on
this is a lot of formality for given a society like Pakistan. So this is also a lot of already has been taken by Pakistan given the situation that the way Pakistan society is, and of course the keeping in view the Pakistan socio-economic and Pakistan's people's education level also. So this is already a lot Pakistan is doing for FATF. So this has to be actually elaborated in the meeting in FATF. So why that was important, and that was important because Pakistan is trying to get out of it. But at the same time, Pakistan has gone through a menace of terrorism.
And
right,
we're going to just come back to what you're saying.
Yeah.
We've just going to introduce a guest who's online with us, Air Vice Marshal Faiz Amir, who's the Vice Chancellor of Air University. So thank you for joining us online.
Welcome, welcome.
Sir, this recent bill that the National Assembly has passed to meet FATF requirements, and this is for exchange of information and individuals with other countries. In your opinion, how important is this in order to curb terror financing?
Actually, it is going to help both Pakistan and the global community that is interested in doing business with Pakistan. In that manner, Pakistan has been more interested in the outflow of funds from Pakistan in illegal ways. So since Pakistan did not have a parliamentary bill passed for it, so it could not ask for the countries or give them the same information that it required to get from them. This bill is actually in compliance with the October 2019 meeting that FATF had in Pakistan, 19th October probably. That found Pakistan compliant in certain areas. Mostly it was partially compliant, and in a couple of areas it was non-compliant or very less compliant. So when we look at those lists, Pakistan actually it is not only a matter of staying out of blacklist, but it is also a matter of getting out of the grey list.
Right.
And getting into the Committee of Nations that has probably no stigma attached to it. Pakistan since has worked a lot in getting out of the terrorism network that was imposed on it by a foreign war that was going on in our neighborhood. So probably now is the time that Pakistan puts itself in full gear to make sure that it meets the requirements mostly, not absolutely, mostly, what is asked for it to get out of the grey list. And this particular bill, I'm sure, is going to go some way, not a long way, because they also asked for not only parliamentary or legislative efforts, but they also asked for certain actions that Pakistan took in pursuit of counter-terrorist financing and anti-money laundering. In that case, we heard that a couple of months back there was a case filed against one of the known figures in Pakistan. So those are the steps that Pakistan is gradually taking, moving, inching forward to get itself out of the grey list of FATF.
So, sir, do you think that this is also going to help Pakistan prevent the fleeing of money overseas, and also those individuals who have left Pakistan with the country with the ill-gotten funds? Do you think that will help Pakistan to sort of bring those people or the Pakistan's funds back?
I think having a legislative framework is the very first step that authorizes your government or functionaries as a government to demand certain information from other governments. And that's the very first step that we should have taken a long time back, but nevertheless, it is just right that we took those steps. And these steps will empower our government to ask from other governments, either sign mutually agreements with them for exchange of information. This is primarily on bilateral basis. This exchange of information is on bilateral basis, but the bill also empowers the government to probably transfer information on some other issues as well. So when you have this legislative framework in place, then obviously the next step would be to go and sign the bilateral agreements with those countries, and then ask for the information about your own people who have stashed illegal cotton money away in those countries. So you would also have to reciprocate in times to come when you ask for some information. Then Pakistan would also have to reciprocate same information about their concerns. So whereas it is a very good step, and it empowers you, or it empowers to seek information from other countries, it also binds you that you would have to give them the information that they need, and that could be probably an area that the government would need to think very hard about.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us online, Air Vice Marshal Faiz Amir. So, ma'am, your final remarks about this bill that's been passed and the upcoming FATF review in February. Do you think that we have a good chance of getting off that grey list?
It is difficult to say at this moment, but I think the Pakistan has done its own homework, and Pakistan is doing a lot, and it is seen by the world also, and the Pakistan is trying to get its image right, which is the branding right, I would say. So it is very important for Pakistan to get out of it. And at the same time, I would say that
it's a huge monumental
FATF,
task
yes,
to
and
formalize
FATF
the whole
to,
economy.
They have to realize also that Pakistan is going through for the last so many years and going through a menace of terrorism, and there's a new technology coming in, and then to actually deal with all technological issues and deal with all techniques, Pakistan also needs to come up to certain stage to deal with all this.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Noor Fatma, and giving your input on this very important topic, because we've got this essential review coming up, and it's important to keep all these things in mind. And hopefully Pakistan will be in a position in the upcoming review to overcome what it could not last time, and we will not fall in the hands of the designs of Indians to blacklist Pakistan from FATF because... Right, we'll be prepared because it could have a damaging effect on the economy, and Pakistan is already trying really hard to stabilize that. So that's all the time we have for today's program. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsroom, and we'll see you next time.